so I've come down to Coulson AFA scheme today, basically doing an energy study to look at all the processes that are going on to help limit our fuel use primarily, and also see how we can be more efficient. So I've got a few selection of the site team here. We've got some plant operators, we've got some general operatives, and we've got agent as well. So we've got a good spread of different disciplines. One thing that I noticed from this site is that it's got a grid connection. So Robbie, can you expand a little bit on how that came about?
We have to give the merit for this to the sub-agent. He's been here before we started. Actually, it wasn't that long before. And he's seen a potential into it. He talked to the right people, he managed to get.
I guess really speaks volumes for getting up front grid connections really early on, because otherwise I hear a lot of stories in the business where people have turned up the site and I've come in and said, okay, we can use grid electricity, but they're not on site long enough to realise the financial benefit primarily, even though it's low carbon. So that's a really key consideration for sure. We had a little chat about battery tools as well. So experience we've had around here, can you give us a flavour for that? So we get hand tools, we've got circle saws, battery drills.
We got our carpenter here, he can tell us what you think about that.
Lead carpenter.
Lead carpenter, no less, yeah.
Yeah, like battery tools are not powerful enough for what we do. They're more DIY kings to do something at home, not here. But for small jobs we use screw, cordless screwdriver.
Yeah.
Maybe 4-inch grinder to do small cuttings, like small jobs. But
you know, because there are places sometimes where we have to run a cable.
to cut small,
Yeah, 3 parts.
So there's a health and safety aspect to that.
It's not only that, because you see, to run a skill saw, you need the power. So you have to start the generator. So there, they looks on it, but if it's
best to have both.
yeah.
Sure. So that's interesting to hear. We've had obviously the feeling that we're very open to try new things, but it's very important for what we're doing here today in terms of making a few suggestions, and hopefully we can together make that carbon footprint a little bit less intensive. So in terms of the bigger plant then, I've certainly been involved with a lot of conversations with suppliers, and what we see is that an electrically driven larger plant, typically anything from between 5 tonnes right the way through to 40-tonne excavators, telehandlers and the like. The market for those in electrically driven terms is not there. There's some research and development always going on, as we've touched on today. But there's a lot of things that can be done to reduce the fuel impact while we're using the plant. So from your perspective, when you're using the plant, how conscious are you of the impact you're having?
Very.
Yeah?
Yeah, always turn it off when not in use. Stuff like that.
Yeah, so you're definitely conscious of that one. I guess there's some other drivers with that because of where we are. We're quite close to residents, so the air pollution, air quality is becoming quite a factor as well. So one of the things that we're looking at as a business is to try and make data more visible, because we know from our own personal lives that things like smart meters and things are now getting into homes, and we all can start to see our consumption. And there is some scepticism about whether that actually makes a change or not, but the very fact that you can see your data and you can see your impact of consumption does put it at the forefront of your conscience.
Yeah, that would be a good point where you said there. I think we are quite a long way for it. I think that's the way I see it. It doesn't all around it. That figure shows you how much diesel
Shows
you're
you
using.
how many revs you do per minute,
How about diesel?
per gallon you're using each hour.
It does. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a good thing, Do you have to put that she shows you as a screen?
No, you have to go into the menu, scroll down.
Yeah, so there you go, it's there, same as the car, to be honest.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting to a place where the digital is more and more, definitely.
Because that's on the digger, at least you can see, look if but I was having a discussion earlier, and we were talking about if you use your digger, let's say if you don't need something too heavy, or you only stretch it out, would you use it on the full revs or not? Before where you turn it up and down? Yeah, is it still like that?
You can still turn it up and down, but your movements will be very, very slow.
So, the way I see it, a lot of it has to come from the suppliers.
Yeah.
Where
It's a fair point.
maybe we'll have to look at what type of plant we're hiring,
finally, whilst I've got you all here as well, it'd be a good point to touch on the efficiency of process. Now, these rail jobs are often fraught with accessibility issues. Obviously, working in a live rail environment, and the way you schedule the jobs can be quite constrained. How the work scheduling fits in terms of moving materials around, for example, what kind of temporary works we have to put in place.
To be honest,
How is it optimised?
this job program-wise is very tight, very tight. So we have the issue in here with the design point of view of the job, because the drawing has been issued so late. And then we just realized now the hoist we can't use them, so that has to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's always these little things popping up in the operational
Yeah.
environment, and what that's doing is adding to the on time.
Operation.
Yeah, the operation on time. So obviously we're trying to look to reduce that as much as possible, which is great. Have you guys got any specific questions about sustainability related topics in your day to day? Have you seen anything on site?
I asked you
Yeah.
earlier, so what's better, the high dryer or the paper towel?
Okay, yeah, so the offers environment, very good point. So from an energy perspective, operationally speaking, the paper towels are a lot better, but you could argue on the flip side that the carbon footprint embodied in that paper can be a little bit more intensive perhaps than just the hand dryer itself. So there is a bit of ambiguity around that, but I think operationally from a hygiene perspective and to have a lesser power demand on the projects, having paper towels is my preference. Facilitating my visit today. Really great to get some real perspectives from the project, and thanks very much for your time watching the video.